Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're so glad you're with us to stay curious today. And I've got one of our favorite and popular guests on Stay Curious, Gary Allgire. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
Great to have you here. Gary vacations sometimes in the summer up in Georgia.
Yeah, I'm
And
down here temporarily, but you caught me.
that's right. Well, you stay a lot longer where you have your medical treatment,
Yeah,
don't you, there?
yeah,
So
yeah.
you and your wife have your medical stuff down here. We're always glad to have Gary here. What a wealth of knowledge he's been on our Stay Curious program. You all chiming in today. Many of you have known Gary before. He's had done some great stories on Buran, a space shuttle of Russia is very popular. You got to see Gary's take on the Apollo 1 fire because Gary's a structural engineer. And if it doesn't have fluids or electrons flowing through it, it's yours, right?
That's true. That is actually correct.
He was in today, and I said, I could do a book report type of program today, but why don't you sit down here and let's talk about some of the current events going on?
Okay.
After all, we got this exciting Polaris Dawn mission taking off in the middle of the night tonight, hopefully. We got Starliner. That's the big drama going on. And we've got the much, I think, neglected a little bit, the Starship about poised to make its fifth flight. And as we know, Elon Musk, he just keeps pushing that envelope.
He sure does.
And I think personally, we're probably not giving enough attention to Starship on the show.
Yes, it is a very unique and exciting thing if he ever launches it, and it really does put the 100 people in it.
Yeah,
He wants to do it. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
it is. There, Marty's on the board here today. Marty, how you doing? You need a microphone a little bit closer there.
Okay.
All right, to Gary, thank you very much. On there, we had Nick Thomas on yesterday. Nick is, of course, the astronaut wrangler out the Space Center. We reviewed the movies Apollo 13 and Marooned
Yeah, I
yesterday.
listened to it. Yes.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did you think of the take on it?
That was good. It was good. I've seen the movie 13 twice, I think. And then Maroon, I'm not sure I watched that one.
I watched it the other day. It's been a long time. It's a 1969 movie, so of course the it was just an all-star cast, Gregory Peck and
Oh, yeah.
and so forth on there. So you can find that everywhere you get your services done there, Gary. Okay, we got a lot of people coming in here today, Marty. Whoa, what's happening here?
We got 4.
Looks like we got bombed a little bit by somebody. What in the world? So we've got somebody called the BHP on there. And we've got somebody saying a bunch of crazy stuff on there. So we will ban them as soon as we get off here.
I only seen 4.
Marty, look at all that crazy stuff.
Fuck, I'm not seeing that. I just got 5 people.
Oh, okay. I'm seeing something else here. Thank God. Wow. I was seeing a bunch of comments about. All right, I see there, Marty. There we go. Yeah. All right. There we got Gary Gerald. He's up there in Georgia. Says greetings to you, Steve J. Know you got a question or two, Gary or Steve. So say hello. Just throw them out there. We've got good afternoon from Colorado, where autumn is upon us, says
Oh, my.
Mitch. Mitch Rothman's going to be in town for care and services. Dean Babcock, Tom Celentano, Bill Whiting. Yep. Thank you all for helping us out there. We hope you. And Dave Stangy's up there today. So we're just going to kind of have a conversation about what's going on, get Gary's input into it a little bit, because he's helping me out today. I didn't have to do some heavy lifting on a program today, as our small staff, as you see, we're buzzing around here trying to keep the operation flowing, as we certainly miss our leader. Karen, I wanted to say that Bid Again Auctions has an auction the second, I guess September 9th, Marty. What's the Saturday? September 1st, I believe, is Saturday. Yes, no, the 31st is Saturday.
Yeah,
So the auction is September 8th, I believe. And
that'd be
we'll be talking.
Eighth is a Sunday.
Sunday.
8th is a Sunday?
Yeah.
So it's the 7th, Saturday. So September 7th, Saturday, we will be putting stuff together on that. Why I'm a little discombobulated is we're putting things together for Karen Conklin, our leader, who passed away short 3 weeks ago. Her service will be Saturday at the North Brevard Funeral Home, and those of you can watch it live on broadcasts that they have there. So 2 p.m. And those of you local, we're going to have a reception here at the American Space Museum for Karen and her husband Mark and family. So this is, of course, took us by blindsided us, her dying of cancer after just a diagnosis a couple months earlier. And so keep Karen in your thoughts, and you all do. So thank you all for thinking of Karen and our staff here and her family, as we're doing the best we can, and we're not doing too bad keeping things afloat here. I threw this picture out because on this date, Gary, in space history, in 1964, August 27th, this is Hurricane Cleo in the highest tech weather imagery
That day, yeah.
possible of the day there, bearing down on Miami. This was quite a nasty storm. This was, of course, since 1964, right between, they were getting ready to ramp up with the Gemini program. So they had some of that stuff out on the rocket ranch that they had to get put in. Cleo was a monster storm, did a lot of damage to Miami, caused the Fort Lauderdale News to miss publication, the only time in history that happened. A popular theme park, Pompano Beach, was destroyed and never rebuilt. Marty, you guys remember anything about that? So this was a real killer storm at the time. 650,000 homes were without power. A quarter of the grapefruit crop was lost. That'd have been huge. And Stewart, Florida, Marty, you're familiar with Stewart, 9 inches of rain there.
Well,
In there. So, but today, Gary, we see this is 2022. That's Hurricane Nicole. Did significant damage on both coasts. There, it's just crossing across the Gulf there, about ready to hit us in there. It's just amazing, isn't it, how the technology's increased?
It really is. It's how it transferred from different, all the time, gotten better and better, and it'll still get better. It'll still get better.
Yeah, you and Marty have both seen it though, living here.
Yeah.
Wow, the uncertainty in the 60s and 70s of what was going to happen. What was that like?
Well, I wasn't here in Florida at that time, but I'm sure it was very traumatic, as you don't really know how bad the storm's going to be, based on what the birds were doing. I guess you look at see if they're hightailing it out or yeah.
What the birds
Yeah.
are doing. That's
I mean,
a
we've
good-
had what I think one year we had a bunch of parakeets that came into the port. For years they were staying there, and they made so much noise up in the trees. A whole big flock of them came in off of a hurricane.
Yeah, they have them in Melbourne still.
Yeah, well, do they?
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
so we
yeah.
had 'em at
There's a bunch
at
of
the
parrots
port,
in there. Marty, go ahead. You got a comment or question?
Yeah, we got a comment from Man Space. That was Mitch, right?
Yeah,
And
Mitch.
it says, Gemini Titan 2 was on a launch pad at the time and had to be dismantled. The second was removed, and the first stage last safely in place.
Thank you, Mitch. Yeah, that was a drill that they never probably prepared
Yeah,
for
yeah.
too much back then.
Yeah.
And as they're getting all this hardware up for the Apollo program to go to the moon, and they're thinking about, wait a minute, we get hit by a hurricane. So what was hurricane? Did you live through any during the shuttle era? Or?
Well, the story that I was told, that when I first came here, that where the Cape is located, for some reason, the hurricanes, they've never been hit with a full force hurricane in history.
Mhm.
They've all come across either come across from the other side, or they've been weak by the time they have here. So I've sat through a few at the house, and there's one or two that we did evacuate to North Florida or Georgia. But sometimes we would go over to our son's place over in Tampa, or he would come over here when they had one in Tampa.
Yeah, I've heard that too, Marty. Not that the area is immune, but the way it juts out into the ocean and just some of the other dynamic forces kind of make it not a direct target. What do you know about that?
That's exactly what I was going to say, Mark. We've never had a direct hit.
Uh-huh. So maybe it's that little horn sticking out there. So we've got a couple things in space history that I had racked up, and this is to celebrate Jerry Carr dying on this date. Actually died the 26th, and he was known to the world on the 27th of 2020. He passed away at age 88. Real great friend of the museum. There you have a famous picture of him. Grew a beard in space up there. Jerry Carr, great friend of our museum. We have his fit check helmet there in the Skylab case up there. But that's a real famous picture of the Skylab era. Of course, this date in space history in 1974, we have Skylab 2, the second crewed mission. Some call it Skylab 3, the engineers do.
No, the engineers do not. Well, we call them by what's on their patches.
Okay.
Skylab 1. We never did call Skylab, the actual Skylab itself, as 1.
Okay.
Okay.
But there's a group that did.
The only one people that did that was the firing room. If you look at the firing room badges, that's what started this whole thing off. But I had a little sticker on my badge that said STS Skylab 1, and that was the first crew.
Okay. All right, good. Yeah, it causes confusion when you're talking about Skylab 3. Is that this group here, or which is the launch control considered at the 4th mission on there? But it's clearly got 3 on the patch there. The second crewed mission with Jack Lausma, Alan Bean, and I always forget him on 2.
Ops people can never get it right. So
that's
why
right.
They screwed that
Ops
up.
people can never get it right. And in space history, you and Marty may have watched the launch of the 20th space shuttle with this crew, led by Joe Engle on the left, who had his 53rd birthday right before the mission. And Joe died a couple weeks ago. It would have been 92 yesterday. This was one heck of a mission, a wonderful crew. 7 days proved the worthiness of America's space truck as 5 astronauts deployed 3 commercial satellites into orbit and hand grappled a satellite to successfully repair it. There's a little picture of that. It was called the best shuttle mission to date and one of the cleanest in the 135-year flight history of the 30-year program. And that is exactly what this thing was built for, to be a space truck. And of course, we know the 25th flight, 5 flights after this one, all that changed with the explosion of Challenger. How was the enthusiasm back then that we were really going to make money with the shuttle?
We were very enthused until Challenger changed a lot of that. But we were looking forward to really using this shuttle the way it was really built and designed for, which is putting up 5 satellites at one time, or bringing back satellites to be repaired. So we were, like I said, we were enthused. It was a good program that we would be working on. Things changed after Challenger, but other than that, it was an exciting program.
Well, the big change was not in NASA or you space workers losing confidence in the program. It was in the people that were going to put satellites on there say, we can't risk this. We're going to have to go back to the single stick rocket.
I don't think I saw it that way. I think we saw it more as JSC was going to be overseeing us more than they had in the past. Up until that point there, JSC left us alone. They said, you guys are doing the ground side of it, we do the orbiter side of it. And so they never got involved with anything we did down here unless we ran into a problem where we actually needed their help to resolve it. either through a different contractor, there was even a problem, or the hardware itself was not acting the way it was designed to do. And we tried everything to get it to work correctly, and we just needed some extra additional help. And so we would contact JSC, and they would provide that extra help. After the Challenger, then they started coming down and more monitoring, which merely meant more meetings. Basically, it didn't improve anything, but other than we just had a lot more meetings with people that never really understood what we were doing.
Huh.
So,
Well, always very interesting to look at the segments of the shuttle era, the first third of it being up to Challenger explosion, the middle third using the payload bay and learning how to do all the science in the payload bay and the mid deck, and then the final third constructing the ISS.
I worked with a lot of the payload community, the satellites themselves, and they were excited to come and work and fly on the shuttle. There was no doubt about that. And that was one of the things that we did when we met with those people, to show them how it works in the shuttle, how we can get access to them where we couldn't. And one of my jobs was to go out as far as I could, maybe 5 years in advance, look at their program, and then tell them what we could do and not do. And if you needed to change something on your satellite, then we've got you up so far up in advance that you can do that, not at the last minute. And say, we can't do that. So it was very important. Part of the mission was to go out there and talk to those people as early as we could.
Very good. Got a question for Gary Allgire about anything about this man-human space program there? Thank you, Marty. Oh, and Gary is who I forgot about on the Skylab 2 there. His son become an astronaut also, paid for his flight up there, and making money off video games, I think, is what his son did. Yeah, Owen Gary, quite an important astronaut at the time there. On orbit right now. They were launched. They're coming back. They were launched July 28th. The second crew of Skylab, and coming back September 25th. This is the 30th day of 59 days in space. I had it right there. Being Gary and Jack Lausma. And my privilege to have met and talked to Jack Glausman several times. What a intelligent guy. Boy, he'll talk to you about anything on there. Let's see. Steve Jokum says the Rogers Commission also helped reset the priorities of the shuttle program, forcing commercial payloads off, NASA and government payloads from then on. That's right. Thank you for that note there, Steve. Well, we just kind of thought we'd talk about some current events history. That's why we got the Starliner as the background. But the big focus around the Space Coast is this Polaris Dawn mission by billionaire Jared Isaacman. His pilot is Poteet. Isaacman and Sarah Gillis are going to do a spacewalk. And Menon, the other woman on board, the two women are employees of SpaceX.
Oh,
Yeah, they're so they're the first SpaceX employees to go to space.
cool.
Up there. There's lost in all of this is, I think, it's pretty dangerous mission in a way. What do you think, Gary?
Well, yes, it is, because they're going to be flying 840 miles up, and they're going to be going into the Van Allen radiation belt for the first time in a long time, where they're going to be exposed to at a longer exposure time. They're trying out some new spacesuits, not something that NASA built, but this is what Elon Musk designed. I guess his company did, and so it'd be interesting to see how that all is going to fold out and work.
Yes, when they open up the nose of the Dragon, all 4 crew members are going to be exposed to space. And Gary, we were talking earlier this morning. They're not revealing exactly how this spacewalk's going to come about.
There's a thought there that they're actually just going to stand up and look outside, and then that'll be it. I don't know if they're really truly are going to do like Ed White did, where he actually left the spacecraft and just kind of dangled out there. He doesn't, or Alexei Leonov. What he did was probably maybe was something that they would do, is they go out and then you just use your oxygen cord to keep you tethered to spacecraft.
Yeah,
And so
all four of them are going to have to be tethered to an oxygen core.
yes, they will.
Tether to get their life support system is going to be coming through a hose, right?
You know, one of the things, I don't know if they've planned it, but it happened on when Cernan and Tom Stafford, what was it?
Yeah, Gemini 8.
Gemini 8.
9.
Yeah,
Gemini 9.
when you know, they couldn't almost bring him back in. If they just go out and they're free floating out there, and if they can't get him back in, are they prepared to leave him?
Yes.
That's something that we don't think about, but it's really a concern.
There is. The famous story that Tom Stafford said is that before their flight up in the White Room, Stafford pulled him aside, and in fact, Gene Cernan goes, "I wonder what they were talking about." You know, that he wasn't talking to me
Yeah.
about it. Deke Slate, the
Deke
chief of the astronauts in the White Room, pulled Stafford aside, and Deke Slayton's going, "What's he talking to him about?" And so allegedly, Deke Slayton said, "Don't forget, if you have to leave him, you have to come back. You have to come back alive."
Yeah.
Cut the cord, and
Go.
and there was a really close call. That was they overheated. They got very the faceplate fogged up. He couldn't see what was going on. So you wonder, wow, how are they solving these problems? What's the spacesuit like? You notice in the photographs that they have a gold tinted faceplate, obviously.
Well, yeah, but you wonder how they're going to cool the suits. If they use an air, that won't work, because that's what they did in the Gemini program that didn't work. You have to be water cooled. And so are they providing water cooling in those suits? I don't know. I don't know what they did.
Yeah.
NASA's been having a difficult time redesigning their suits, and it's way over budget. And here's Elon Musk; he come up with his own, and at a much cheaper cost. So we'll see. I'm kind of anxious to see how it works out.
Good. We all are. The launch is at 3:38 tomorrow morning after midnight. There's two other opportunities 90 minutes apart to launch it. It got scrubbed yesterday, of course. What was the scrub for, Gary?
I think, was that a helium leak again?
Yeah, helium leak on the rocket, though.
Oh, it's on the rocket.
Yeah, it wasn't on the spacecraft. It was,
Okay.
I think, or a ground helium leak is what they're saying.
Okay.
Of course, SpaceX in competition, they don't have to reveal everything to the public. I'm sure they reveal a lot more to NASA. But yeah, there's a lot of unknowns. There's no real press release out there of the procedures they want to do. There's no handholds for them to hold on to outside the
I don't
Dragon.
know. I don't know if NASA's had to approve what they're going to be doing. I don't know since I'm not out there anymore, so I don't know exactly what the protocols are going to be and what they're going to look for. So it'll be interesting to stay tuned and see how they actually do it.
Found this, Gary, from 1962, a little flyer of NASA on Project Gemini. I love coming across these things. And on the back, appropriate for today, a spacewalk being performed outside the Gemini capsule. You know, Jim McDivitt and some of the other three astronauts that were sitting in the commander's seat while their pilot was out in Gemini doing a spacewalk. Technically, they were spacewalking.
Oh, yes. Well,
They don't put them down as a spacewalk, okay?
No.
But you know when a spacewalk begins for a space shuttle astronaut? I mean, an International Space Station astronaut?
It has to be outside, I would assume, as soon as they clear the hatch.
No, it's when they take on their air, when they become a satellite of their own
Okay.
and dependent on their own.
Even though they're inside.
Yeah, even though they're in the
Airlock.
Destiny airlock or
Yeah.
whatever they use there. Yeah, it actually begins, so they get like an extra 20 minutes until they go out there. Marty, you got a comment or question?
Yeah, we have two questions. I'm going to do the second question first. Dave Stang is asking, have they announced the time of the spacewalk?
Yes, they have, Dave. It is 3 days after launch. It's a 4.5 day mission. The spacewalk is scheduled on the third day because it's going to take 2 full days to decompress the Dragon. What they're doing is they're slowly bleeding it off
Down to 5 psi.
and taking oxygen in, and as they bring it down on there. So very interesting on there. So day 3 of the mission, Dave, is what I understand. Probably early in that day 3. Go ahead, Marty, on the UCAC family microphone.
And Dean Babcock is asking, Gary, which contractor did you enjoy working with the most? Were there any contractors that were difficult?
Loaded question
Well,
from Dean there.
Actually, I worked for the same contractor the whole time. You know, it's North American Aviation, and it was North American Rockwell, then it was then Rockwell, then ULA or USA. So it was always the same. They were an excellent company to work with. I never had any issues with them. As far as worked with McDonnell Douglas a little bit, they weren't not quite on tune compared to to Rockwell, as far as I thought the engineering capabilities were. But other than that, nobody was difficult to work with. No, and Grumman wasn't. Even though I didn't work with them directly, we never had any issues. I had a couple issues with their technicians, but nothing other than that.
Mm-hmm. Great question, Dave. Dean Babcock there, and we're talking with Gary Allgire here, great friend of our museum. You come in when he's doing a tour. Boy, you're going to get a lot of knowledge. The people you were touring were so grateful for your...
Yeah, I did this all day today. That's why I'm a little hoarse, because it was started as soon as I got here. I was starting talking to people.
Yeah, we have been busy today.
Yeah.
And hello to my daughter, Jessie. Hello, Jessica. And hello to my granddaughter, McKinley and Macy. Hope that you're all doing good up there in Bristol, Tennessee. Yeah, thank you for trimming my hair, daughter. She says, nice haircut there. I was just up there a week ago, and I miss you guys, but glad you're all doing good. And be good, McKinley and Macy, like I know you are to your mommy there. So, yeah, y'all got a question there? Let's see. Carlton Bailey. Do you think we're moving into the era of you've got the money, but not so much the training, you can buy a seat in space?
Well, from a Boeing standpoint and a NASA standpoint, it's kind of iffy. From a Elon Musk side of it, it's not. He's got his act together. So you got to look and see who the characters are. I mean, how they do stuff. I would be a little worried about on a Boeing.
Well, CB's just jealous because he don't have a big bank account
Yeah.
to buy a Crew Dragon flight and take you, me, and we'll flip a coin for Mark or Tom Usiak to
If
go.
you're going to spend the money, I'd spend it on a SpaceX flight and not a Starliner flight.
Yeah, what did I say, Starliner?
I don't.
Yeah, I meant SpaceX. Yeah, of course.
SpaceX,
On there. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. But you're retired. You can be honest with us about
Yeah.
what you think about that in there. Let's just put the button up here on this. Polaris Dawn is the first of 3 missions. Of course, Jared Eisman went up 2 years ago in the St. Jude's mission with 3 other 2 women and another man. One of them, Cyan Proctor, sat there and gave us a great impression. She loved it. She thought it was safe as could be. She had no qualms about the safety. A delightful guest, wasn't she, Marty? Dr. Proctor. You know, it's just sort of like, wow, this will be the 13th human flight, or 14th, for the SpaceX program. And Boeing, I would have bet you 3 years ago, Boeing was going to be the first to go up there.
Yes.
And look, it's
It was amazing. I would have bet on Boeing too, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
Uh,
Is that how things are sometimes in the space industry, or are they just, what do you think is going to happen? They're just going to cut the program out to start?
Well, there's a lot of people says they should cut it, and Boeing is losing a lot of money on it. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's a shame. I mean, you really want to see it be a success. I want to see it be a success, and maybe they can get these things worked out when they get it back down again, if they ever get it down, and
if they ever get it down, and if it's in one piece when they get it down.
yeah. I think it will, but it's just it's frustrating and disappointing, really is.
Yeah.
And we got the Starship coming back up there. I'd like to see it get going there. With it, the one was like an airplane.
Sierra's
Starliner.
Starliner. Yeah, too many stars and
Yeah.
stuff.
That's a very interesting program, and it'd be see how it works out with them.
I think space workers like you and Marty have do have rightfully so a sentimentality attached to Boeing. Such a great company during the
yes,
Apollo era.
Yes. Oh, they did a great job on the Saturn V, and some of the payloads that they have orbited were responsible for. They did the tail cone for the shuttle.
Yeah.
Went up for that. That was an interesting program, the tail cone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was more of a. I was kind of a shock when I went out to Seattle to do the final agreement on it.
Well, let's talk about that, Gary, next time you're on, because I want to do a show on the approach and landing tests out there. The tail cone was of course, the big part of that. Going to get Bob Seek on for that. NASA legend also in there. Final thoughts about this Polaris Dawn is that Isaacman has ordered 2 more Crew Dragons, the launches. He hasn't said what he's going to do with the next one, but the last one, he's really trying to get lobby support to go up to the Hubble Space Telescope. And actually, this mission is going to go beyond the Hubble Telescope. If they go 800 miles up, the Hubble's about 450. The International Space Station is about 250 to 225 up. And the big PR headlines are 2 women will go the furthest any woman ever has.
This breaks the record from Gemini 10.
Yes,
when they went up to 739.
Pete Conrad and Dick Gordon.
Yeah, so this is going to be the new world record for orbiting the Earth with the humans.
It is a big ellipse on there. So we wish them well. We hope they get off. We hope it is a nominal mission up there. And, I have personally seen a talk by Jared Isaacman. He's very impressionable, very, just very matter of fact. And he and Elon Musk are best friends. He's given Musk money to build a Starship and just keep things going. So we'll hopefully know 24 hours if they're orbiting or not. And hope they get off this morning at 3:38. I think there's a 20% chance of it being violated.
Isn't there another launch before that too?
They have scheduled a launch on Pad A of Starlink satellites about a half hour before. I don't see that happening, Gary.
Okay.
I don't think they should do that. I mean, it's sort of a publicity stunt to me.
Well, it probably is, but it sure will mess up my sleeping.
It will, won't it? On there. Well, we'll see. We'll be checking that out when we get off here, everybody. So you got a question for Gary, chime in there. We're glad that everybody's watching today. We've got Doug Forrest. Hello to you. Hadn't said hello to Robert Law up in Scotland. We know that you all enjoy Gary being on here. Bill Whiting says hi, Gary.
Okay.
Tom Celentano. Tommy UCX watching. Yeah, and my daughter and grandchildren are watching. So happy for that. Let's go to throw up there the picture of the Starliner. Of course, the big news Saturday was that they're going to stay up. Sony and Butch are going to stay up till sometime in February. So we're looking at August, September, let's say September, October, November, December, January, February. That's 5 months. That's 150 days roughly. Okay. They've already been up there. Gary, 84 days.
Wow.
So that's going to be 230 some days.
2/3 of a year.
Instead of an 8-day mission. Of course, we know there's no danger for them. They're at the safest place they could be at the International Space Station. Plenty of food, water, all that up there. Sonny has got 380 days in space before this launch. So you add another 230 to that.
Almost 600.
So she is coming up with 610 days in space.
Almost 2 years, not quite. But...
Yeah, Butch has been in space. I added too much on that. Actually, she would be about 150 days from now. So that'd be more like 520
Okay.
days, minus the 80. And Butch has been up there. He'll be up there almost over 400 days on his 3 missions. So I think that's the good news is these are very experienced astronauts. They're test pilots. This is what they wanted to do was test a new spacecraft. Um, Astronaut Kay Heyer told me that this is as an important mission as STS-1, the first flight of Columbia, because it's the first crewed space flight of a new
Okay.
spaceship. And so what if it comes back safely and all goes well with the reentry? They figured it out. What happens next for Boeing, do you think?
I don't know. There's a lot of speculation. Supposedly, the rumor is that they'll drop it if NASA doesn't drop them, because they're losing a lot of money on this. But I don't know. Pride may step in and say, "Hey, we're going to get this thing fixed and we're going to fly it."
You know, other programs like the Mole program and Dinosaur and the
Yeah.
spent a lot of money on those, and they just cut them and forgot about them.
Well,
It's hard for me to leave these
We
things.
did that to the shuttle.
Yeah, we did that to the
Yeah, we
shuttle
cut it.
too.
I think it was wrong, but that's my opinion. But I hate to see it because the shuttle itself was a very, very robust, good vehicle. I had my doubts about it when I first saw it. Walked up to it and looked at that thing and said, "That's never going to work." And then as we got familiar with it and learned talked to the engineers more and got in touch with them more, and we understood what they had done and what the workmanship was and the quality of the technicians and engineers here that were working on it, became very confident, and I'd fly on it, really would. So I went from a doubter to a really believer in the shuttle. Disappointing with the Marshall with their approach, and they gave us some bad design, solid rocket motors and an ET tank.
Yeah.
They didn't do a good job of. It may not have been all their fault because the EPA got in there and made them change the application method for the foam on the tank. But
The EPA did, you said,
the
Environmental
EPA,
Protection Agency.
got in there and made them change it. So I don't know how much that really affected it, but we became very we're confident in the ability to keep the foam, ice from coming on and damaging the shuttle. But that's just the way it is. But
Yeah, somewhere down the line, you think they could, with the orbiter being so figured out, that they would eventually segue into new boosters and fuel tank.
After the Challenger, they fixed the boosters to where they should have done it. If they had done it the first time, we would have never had an issue, because the fix they did really worked good, and it really wasn't that much of a fix, really. But it's just a shame how the management just wasn't the same as it was at JSC, in my opinion. This is my opinion now.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we value your opinion a lot. Marty, we got a question.
Well, we got a comment from Carlton Bailey. Regarding back-to-back launches, I seem to remember they used to like to see the launch data and check it before they launched again to make sure all went well. But I think it's also a range safety.
Well, it was more than that. It took, back in the Apollo days and the shuttle days, it took 3 days turnaround time to go from one launch to another, 3-day minimum. And we were always told that had to do with the range, reconfiguring all their cameras, antennas, and of course looking at the data. But we've gotten a lot better. We can review the data quicker now than we did back then. And evidently, we don't have to go through all the programs of reprogramming off-site equipment to support the launch. I go back and look at that launch sequencer. It's in the room down there.
Cape Canaveral.
And it's got the old wires like you do the phone operators, where they had to reconfigure all the wiring for that particular mission. And that took a while to do that. It wasn't automatic like it could be today. But that was one of my concerns, is why can't we do a back-to-back launch on the shuttles or back-to-back on Apollo? It was just it just took so long to get the range ready.
Marty's got another question on that USAC family microphone.
Dean Babcock is asking, could the carbon-carbon sections of the shuttle wing be replaced if needed? If so, how would that have been done?
In orbit?
Yeah.
No. We had a heck of a time just putting it on in an OPF.
Did you?
The first Columbia, when it came in, it took probably 6 months to put them all on. They were so screwed up. The brackets didn't fit right, and we called long poles. It was what was going to be the long pole, the tile, the we call the tail feathers between the elevons and the main part of the tail end of the spar of the wing. It was a long pole, and also putting on the RCC. Those were the three that operation people were considered. These are the long poles that we have to get out of the way before we could launch. And it came down to the tail feathers. It took them over a year for Columbia to get those adjusted.
Really?
Yes.
We've talked to our friend Terry White about that before. The tail feathers
I
being
don't think he was here then.
being where the that overlap.
Between, there's a big gap between the leading edge of the elevon and the trailing edge of the wing. There's a gap in there maybe about this long, and it's not going to show up very good here.
Right.
But right here, where the elevons meet the wing, there's a big gap in there on the top. On the bottom, there's not. That's where the hinge is. So as the elevon comes down, they has to keep that area closed, so it doesn't expose to, as they're flying back in through the atmosphere, the wind doesn't get in there. And as the elevons come up, it has to slide up on top of the elevon to keep its area closed. And the pressure, there's a certain spec for how much pressure it can push on the tile or on the surface. And that was a very, very difficult deal. They had, I think what I remember is our crew would work on it for 30 days or 60 days. They'd get fed up, and they would bring a crew from Downey or Palmdale, and they would work for 60 days, and they would get fed up. And then we would put our crew back on it for another 60 days. It was crazy for Columbia when that first time we got for STS-1.
Yeah, incredible that it worked as good as it did. You've got the people who you toured, Junk Edits is his handle. Thank you for the great tour of the American Space Museum, Gary. 2 thumbs up. Your fellow AMP James.
Okay. Yeah, he has this airframe and power plants ticket.
Okay,
He's
great.
a mechanic for one of the airlines. Great guy.
John the Beagle Dad says, hello, guys. We're glad that you're watching today. We're glad everybody's watching today on our show today. Just kind of an open mic with Gary. Had a little structure here, some space history. You got a question for Gary about anything, shoot it out there as we're winding down today's program. One little area I thought we'd talk about that, again, at the beginning of the show, I say we probably neglected a little bit, is the Starliner with the big friggin' booster there. Something, again, that you had your doubts about the shuttle. I guess, I like everybody else. I want to believe. But, wow, this is ginormous.
Yeah, and I'll bet on Elon Musk being successful.
You will? Huh?
Yes.
Okay.
It's those are names.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thank you, Marty. Thank you. Yeah, we've got the names of people watching today. We've got, appreciate everybody, Dave Stange, Gary Gerald, Steve Jokums, Tom Busiak, Mitch Rothman. You need to go to that NASA manned space at Mitch's. He's like us. He loves Mercury,
Okay.
Gemini, and Apollo. Here's a launch of this behemoth. They're going to launch probably within the next month, the 5th launch.
They get the approval, yeah.
Actually wants to bring it back to the launch site and catch it in the chopsticks or whatever they're calling it.
That's
Where
gonna,
would that? Who came up with that idea?
I don't know.
Gary?
It's crazy. I would have never have thought about that, but someone did. Forethinking. I don't know if it's his idea or somebody that's working for him said, "Hey,
Well,
we
it
can do
weighs
this."
so much. How could
Yeah.
2 little
Well,
tongs hold all that weight?
they've already proved that it'll hold it. What the thing is that if the engines are working correctly, it's kind of catching it like a 0G. It's not going to have much weight on it when it comes in and clamps on it
I got you.
until the engines are shut off.
Yeah.
Then it'll pick up the weight.
Yeah.
But if they do it right, it should come out as a neutral thing for the chopsticks to grab it. Accuracy is going to be important, obviously, to do that, and we'll see if it does. I'm hoping it's successful, and my betting will be successful.
It'll be a sight to be seen. I enjoy watching them, seeing all that cryogenics just around it, pooling up like a big old cloud. I'll tell you what I'm impressed with, Gary, is the accuracy of the landing of these Falcon 9s.
Yeah.
They're landing them on a moving platform in the ocean, on a rolling ocean sometimes, and they always hit the center mark.
They come
So
close,
you're talking about coming right next to the tower that launched you,
Mhm.
and in there, I mean, this is some GPS type of accuracy.
It's what modern technology has done for us. You have that capability. It is amazing. I don't know if he's going to use that technology in the commercial world, but he could. We could do a lot of special things. I think one of the big things is that they ever have to overcome is how to refuel a rocket in orbit.
Yeah,
In
absolutely.
space. That is a really hard one to overcome. I don't understand the physics to it, but it is we've been talking about it for Apollo days of to refuel in orbit, and nobody's ever really said it's too difficult. We're not going to challenge it at this time.
Mhm.
Maybe he can do it. Maybe he'll come up with a way. In fact, he has to come up with a way because for the go to the Mars mission or the moon,
Well, the moon, he has to refuel it
Yeah,
like
refuel.
15
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
We've talked about that. From an engineering standpoint, now we were talking about the big booster is what we're talking about coming back and be caught at the pad where it takes off from. And then the Starship, the part with the wings on it there, that's either going to land somewhere.
Well, normally he's going to land it on a platform like he does the SpaceX ones. It's one proposal. I don't know if he has the capability to fly it back and land here on land. I don't know yet what they're going to do. I would imagine eventually he will. He'll land it somewhere so that the people can get out.
Well, they're going to have to practice that on Earth because they got to do it on the moon and then figure out how they're going to get them out from 200 feet in the air. It's a concept that is very fluid, but the fluidity of it, is it similar or dissimilar to what the evolution of the Grumman lunar module went through? What do you think, Marty?
I think this is.
The lunar module went in 3 years from 5 landing legs and 2 docking hatches to 4 landing legs, 1 docking hatch, and a door. So it was, but they finally came up with the final version, right, Marty? No similarity or similarity?
I don't see it, Mark. No.
Yeah, this is more challenging for sure.
Okay.
Oh, it's definitely more challenging, if even possible. I just keep thinking about the craters, the unevenness of the lunar surface,
Oh,
and that got to be precise.
Yeah.
they need legs way outside
Well,
the
if he's going to be that
perimeter.
precise, he can land on a barge. I think he can avoid a crater.
Now, if you don't see it,
Well, they may see it.
If you
I
don't see
know.
the crater, which
Huh?
happened on Apollo 15.
I don't know what cameras he may have. The pilot may be able to have cameras down there where he can see. I don't know.
Yeah, but if you remember on Apollo missions, you couldn't see the lunar surface once the descent engines got too close.
Yeah.
And that's why Apollo 15 partially went into a crater.
Very good. Cliff Watson's woken up at Pomona, Australia, having his morning breakfast on Wednesday. He said someone was watching Karate Kid, so chopsticks was the answer. And Steve Jokum says Mr. Magaya never tried catching a super heavy with chopsticks. So
You need to try catching a bullet.
yeah, can't catch a bullet with chopsticks, but not. Thank you guys for chiming in today. You know, something that did make the news also, Gary. I didn't put a slide in, and I wasn't even going to put any slides in today. Was Blue Origin. You heard the two
Yeah.
the news that came out this week about 2 mishaps at Blue Origin.
Yeah. The fact I went by there. I didn't even notice it, but the one big hangar, the doors have been blown off of it,
Yeah.
and so something in there had an explosion, and then I
In
guess
the vertical
in the
tower
vertical,
there.
the vertical tower, and then they also sort of saw a picture. I guess they were taking the launch vehicle, it was horizontal, and environmentally it went from very hot to very cold, or very cold into very hot, and they had a structural failure in that.
Yeah.
So
An inner tank collapsed when they
which is-
took the fit check model
yeah,
from pad 36 out the tip of the Cape Canaveral out there, brought it in, and some old timer from Apollo said, "Gee, we figured that out in 1959."
well, it doesn't mean we can't repeat it.
Right, right.
I mean, even on the shuttle, it was very critical for us as it ascended or descended up through the atmosphere, that we had three basic compartments. We had the forward fuselage, the mid body, and the aft. Excuse me. And we had to control as we went up and we were losing atmosphere to bleed off all three compartments equally. If we didn't do that, we were told we would collapse the wings on because the aft fuselage bulkhead would not take that bit delta pressure across it. If it had a high pressure here and a low pressure here, it would fail, and that would cause the wings to fold up on them. So we had a computerized system. We had a set of their own engineers, both Rockwell and for NASA, that all they did was monitor that system and worked on that system to make sure that all three compartments bled off at the right rate and pressurized at the right rate.
Wow, that's something I didn't know before. That is so interesting.
Even the windows had a set of engineers that worked just on the windows.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you look around the side of the shuttle here. This is not depicted on this cheap model, but you see the ports there where the air.
They had doors that open and close. They were computer operated, and they were set as they ascended into orbit. They were open, and as they got higher and higher, they started closing off, and they reversed that as they came back in, so control the atmosphere, the pressure in between the three compartments.
Good stuff. Only what you hear here on Stay Curious 5 days a
Now,
week. Tell your friends.
The crew compartment sits inside of the shell, and that area, it's that gap between those two. That's what we're trying to keep equalized.
Okay.
Because you can't do anything with the crew compartment. It's going to stay at 14.7 no
Right.
matter what. But that area in between is what we were critically needed to watch.
All the space around
Yeah.
it, it's in there. Very interesting. We thought we'd end today with something that Marty emailed me. And for Marty and I, it's our first look, and maybe you, Gary, at the Artemis Emergency Egress System.
Yeah.
We're just going to kind of look at this from the PR that's put out by NASA on Artemis a little bit ago. Thank you, Marty, for sharing this. First of all, what I note, Gary, well, they say in a launch pad emergency that requires astronauts to evacuate the Orion spacecraft, the crew and other personnel will use the emergency egress system and leave launch pad 39B. It's called a catenary system, similar to gondolas used for ski lifts. Teams will use this catenary system to transport the baskets from the mobile launcher to the perimeter of the launch pad. It is 1,335 feet long. That is over a quarter mile, a cable. They have 4 emergency egress baskets, the size of a small utility vehicle, an SUV. And they can each hold up to 5 people. Each basket's designed for 1,500 pounds. So you've got room for the crew and other people up there in emergency. What's your first take on that?
Well, it's very similar to what we used in the Apollo program and the shuttle program. I don't know how they're stopping it. I know in the Apollo program they used chains. They had big chains like you do. I mean, they were pretty good sized chains, and they were laid out, and they would pick those up, and dragging that chain across is what slowed them down when they came in. They also can use cables that change in diameter to a thicker diameter as they get close, and that will slow them down too sometimes.
Okay.
I don't know what they're using, but when they get down to the end, in the Apollo program, we had a military carrier that they could crawl into, and it's tracked, and they could drive off into a safe area to get away from the blast area.
Yeah, the M105 tank.
Yeah. Now, I don't know whether they're using the rubber room.
It says emergency transport vehicles will drive them safely away.
Yeah.
So
Now, they also may still be able
no
to...
rubber room
no
talked
ru-
about, the
no rubber
famous rubber room of
Yeah.
the Apollo program, which you were in the rubber room.
No, but a guy in our office got in there one weekend and had to call to get rescued.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he he walked by the door on the MLP and saw there was no signs or nothing, and he was in his bunny suit, and he said, "I just think I'll slide down there." So he got in. This was on a Saturday, so he slid down in there. Darker than can be. He tried to crawl back up. There was no way to crawl up. He finally found a phone and called the firing room and said, "Hey, I'm in the rubber room. Come and get me." And he didn't get in trouble for it, but it was kind of embarrassing that. So after that, he had a big sign across it and a ribbon across it: "Do not go in."
Marty,
Because
did you tell me you were in the rubber room?
Yeah, it was.
The one
Yeah.
at Kennedy Space Center, right? Not the one at Bellevue.
No, no,
That's the one I was in. Bellevue Hospital rubber room.
no, we did an emergency evacuation drill,
Uh-huh.
and we slid down and went inside.
Yeah.
And that was during Apollo.
We had Fireman Lee Sterrick did a great show.
I wonder why we didn't get to do that.
it there. Yeah. Well, we thought you'd enjoy taking a peek at the Artemis emergency egress system. Not sure that'll ever come into play. Hopefully, not
Hope
in
it
a
never does,
disaster, of course. And the Artemis program, another program that's just mired in question marks. This Blue Origin incidents there, the first thing that comes to mind in a lot of people is, well, we're depending on them to go back to the moon with Artemis also. How much is this going to delay? You know,
Well, Artemis has issues with the heat shield. They got more damage when it flew that first time and it came back. And I haven't heard any results from the heat shield and how they resolve that, if at all.
Yeah, just recently talking with someone about the heat shield yesterday, and might that require another uncrewed mission to test the heat shield? You wouldn't want to, I don't know.
Yeah, we did that at from Apollo 1 to through Apollo 6. That was one of the tests we did, was a new heat shield, even though they weren't the same. They say it was a new the Block 2 heat shield, but the Block 2 heat shield was totally different design than the Block 1's because of the way the umbilical, CSM umbilical, was attaching to the command module. Had a big bulge in the heat shield for the Block 1's.
Okay.
Whereas the Block 2's did not have that bulge.
All right. The bulge was to take off more material.
No, the bulge was to make room because they put the umbilical just underneath the hatch and to the right of it, if you're looking at the hatch. And as the cables came in, they had to go down, and then they had to make a bend to go across the floor, and that caused a bulge in the heat shield itself to make room for that turn of the cables going into the floor. And so that was the reason why the bulge was there. And it's really noticeable. I didn't ever see it until I went up to Fernbank Museum and looked at the Apollo 6 spacecraft and saw that. I said, wow, I never knew that was like that. Because when I saw it, we were made it to the service module, so you would never have noticed that.
Well, we love talking to Gary about what he knows about the space program. One of our national treasures for what he did in Apollo, putting us on the moon, and then, of course, the wonderful 33 decades of the shuttle era there. Just kind of hope you enjoyed looking around and bouncing ideas off here at Gary of what's going on. We certainly hope that the Polaris Dawn has a successful flight, and that tomorrow at this time we're talking about them being safely in orbit. They're going to go right up the first few orbits is to get them to that 800-mile level, because they got to use all the energy of that second stage to get them up there.
So are they going to return the first stage here, or are they going to throw it away?
No, the first stage is returning on a barge, I
barge?
understand.
Okay.
Yes, it is going on a barge, which you've seen some of the satellites that go to 26,000-mile orbit.
Seems like when they go north, to higher inclinations,
Yeah.
they return here and land here. Anything that's going to the space station always seems to land here. And then I think there was another one they just launched. It was going into orbit, but they landed it here.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how much energy they need to
Yeah.
get that up there to have enough fuel to get it back. So we'll be looking at that. I'll be probably at my local boat dock off A1 there in Port St. John to see it at 3:30 in the morning. I ain't gonna stay up all night to
I'll be
watch it.
asleep.
That's I'll get up
I don't
and
know.
see
I might
that.
be up at that time. I usually get up
So,
at 3 o'clock, 3:30 for a nature's call.
All right. Well, we enjoy everybody chiming in today. All you new people, appreciate that. Marty, great job on the Streamlabs production there. You have anything to add to today?
Nope. Other than I don't have Cliff Watson on that list.
Yeah, Cliff Watson, thank you for watching there. My daughter Jessie and granddaughters McKinley and Macy. So glad that they're being good for their mommy today. And thank that you all are so good to watch Stay Curious. Tomorrow I've got Bert Dick of the National Space Society. He's going to be here. He's the membership director. Good friends of many of you all met Bert at many of the events around the country. He's been with the NSS for a long time. Bert's coming on once a month to tout their magazine, Ad Astra, as well as all the good works they're doing. So look forward to that. And we'll do some other things for the rest of the week here. So thank you, Gary,
You're welcome.
for coming on. Always great to see you. Look at Gary and I. We're like brothers with our beards, aren't
Yeah.
we? There, we're
Yeah.
kind of similar trim going on there, man. Great to always have you on there,
Styled
Gary.
after me, didn't you?
That's right. I did. I did.
You got more hair though.
Well, thank you all for watching. I'm Mark Marquette saying we can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us. Thank you for watching.